if you're a business owner and you're looking for some really great books to read, this is definitely a video to watch because it's totally out of the box and different than what most people will tell you. People will say the typical books by, well-known people. But our recent podcast guest, very brilliant man, Colin Theriot, shared his favorite books. And when we premiered the episode, everybody wanted to know where do you have the links can you write them down? So we're giving you this little clip with the book recommendations, and you will also find the details about those books below.
So before letting a bright mind like yours leave this conversation, I would like to ask you, are there any books that you've read? Maybe name one or two that really inspired you.
Like
and
inspired
change the way you're thinking. It doesn't have to be
anything.
business related. Anything, because
Okay.
it seems like you've got a lot of knowledge. It seems like you've read a lot. So just out of curiosity, I'm looking for books to read myself as well. So
Okay.
That's a big
So
question.
yeah, there's the one that I recommend to a lot of people, and it's the book where, like, if I was going to write a book, I would write my version of this book because it's been useful to me, but it did require adaptation. It's an ebook that was the workbook for a course that this guy Blair Warren sold. And at least the last time I checked, you can buy the PDF of the book from his website. It's called The Forbidden Keys to Persuasion. And Blair was a TV producer, if I remember correctly. So he presented the material about mass persuasion and influence from his point of view as like a guy who made news reels for broadcast TV. And one of the main things I liked about the book is that it's a scholarly work, so it has a bibliography. He cites different works. He quotes different authors that he's like, I'm borrowing this guy's idea to teach this thing. And that was a book, that was like the first book I read when I got hired, quote unquote, as a copywriter. Like I got promoted into that job. And I think if I'd read any other book, I wouldn't look at it the way that I do about influence being higher than persuasion. Influence is who the messenger is from. Persuasion is what the message is. So to make this useful to your audience, it's hard to persuade strangers to do what you want if they don't know who you are. But it's easy to persuade strangers to know who you are, and then you're influential, and then your persuasion is a lot easier because it matters who it's coming from. But this is the book that I picked that up from, Forbidden Keys to Persuasion, and it's by Blair Warren, spelled the normal way you would spell either of those names. I think he's got a website under his name, but like I said, he was briefly in the internet marketing world making info products, and then I guess he changed his mind. And I had to bug him for years to make that book available for sale because I would tell people about it, and they'd be like, I can't find it anywhere. And then I'd go to his website and it wouldn't be there. So I'd email him and say, like, I'm not saying I'm going to make you rich, but I tell people about this book monthly, and you would at least sell a few copies if you let people buy it. So he eventually did, and I think you can get it from his website. So that's the first one. Let's see, a second one that's been influential. There's a children's book called The Children's Almanac of Words at Play, and it's by Willard R. Espy. And I don't know if it's still in print, but someone gave that book to me as a gift when I was a child. And I remember that book as the one that made me love language as a game. So it's got it teaches you what alliteration is. It teaches you different rhyme schemes. It talks about spoonerisms and palindromes and all these tricksy things with words that just gave me a love of playing with words. Because I don't like to write the way, I guess when novelists describe how they sit down to write. That seems so boring to me. That's not what I'm doing when I do it. But that book is what I remember being a kid and being like, this is fun to do, to play with words and twist them around and trick people with them, kind of. So that's a good one if you can find it. And then let's see, the rule of three. I got to give you a third one. It can't just be two.
Okay.
Let's say, um, so there's this book called Understanding Comics, and it's by Scott McCloud, and he is himself a comic book writer and artist. And what he meant it to be is a book about how the medium of comics works, being a hybrid of image and word that creates something that, like, it's a sum that's greater than a whole that's greater than the sum of its parts. So he has lessons on things like if you see a person who is scared, and then you see a word that says bang, and then you see a nighttime sky with birds flying off. You would see those three images and you might make a whole story up in your head like a person got shot. That's not in the picture. You made that part up in the gaps in between those pictures. So in that way, he teaches about how comics is a medium that requires the audience to invent parts of it using themselves, which, as you might guess, years later, being a persuasive writer, that concept is useful. Because if I get you to put yourself into the work, I'm not telling you something from outside. It's a voice from inside you telling you what you should do. So that was a book that was highly influential to me, and it is a comic book itself. It's a graphic novel about the medium of comic books. And that's one where not only do I recommend it to people, that's one where, like, if I see it in a used bookstore, I'll buy it and give it to someone because I know I'm going to recommend it. And I'll say, look, I have a spare copy that you can have. But those three, Forbidden Keys to Persuasion, the Understanding Comics, and what was the third one? I forgot already.
No,
I read
book.
The kids' book, yes. Willard R. Espy's Children's Almanac of Words at Play. I can see the cover in my mind. It's like yellow. There's a white oval in the center, and the lettering on the book is like pink and blue, if I'm remembering it correctly. But anyway, hugely influential book. Give it to a kid that you want to turn out weird.
If you like this clip, be sure to listen to the full episode with Colin. He is a former art student turned business owner, but he kind of rejects the idea that he's an entrepreneur. He's kind of a guy who goes with the flow, but super smart and brilliant, especially in the areas of persuasion and copywriting. And also he talked about some very interesting things about the dangers of AI. And as online marketers, we're probably, have some, different feelings about it. But the discussion with him was really great to listen to no matter what side of the fence you might be on.